My neighbor said that their home is an investment. Mine is more like a subscription service. Expensive, monthly, and I'm very scared to cancel it. Just really don't know where you guys come up with these things. Welcome to the Listed Podcast. I'm Abra Palermo, your local Illinois and Wisconsin real estate broker with over 25 years of experience and lead broker of the RE/MAX Unites Golden Girls team. Listed is all about real agents talking real estate in Northern Illinois and Southern Wisconsin and beyond. If you're interested in real estate in our region or in general, you've come to the right place. And starting this episode off, let's take a look at this month's national real estate news. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's a balloon taking photos of your home for insurance companies. Insurance companies are now using high-altitude, AI-powered balloons to capture ultra-detailed, top-down images of rooftops, neighborhoods, yards, and often without homeowners realizing it's happening. The technology developed by Near Space Labs helps insurance companies assess wildfire risk, roof damages, and maintenance issues in real time. But with no clear federal rules yet, privacy advocates warn it could also be used to deny claims or drop customers without their knowledge. Of course, they do have to be given knowledge. States like California are already pushing for notice requirements, signaling that this new eye in the sky may spark a major debate over privacy, property rights, and how far insurance companies should be allowed to go. We've had several clients and friends reach out asking, why is someone taking photos of my property or a neighbor's property? In most cases, I tell them it's very possible that this is an insurance company. Maybe it's insurance renewal, maybe it's an insurance review, maybe it's an assessor. Sometimes it's also refinancing because they'll just do a drive-by. For years, insurance companies were relying on things like Google Maps and Google Earth. The problem is that was so outdated. So they would be calling people saying there's a pool in your backyard or there's a trampoline. That had been removed years ago. Or maybe there was a shed there and now there's not. Or vice versa. You added a shed. So the insurance companies needed to have real-time information, which you want them to have accurate, up-to-date information. So you might be seeing some of these photos happening in your neighborhood and in your property areas. What are your thoughts? Comment below. Send me a message. Let me know what you think. Some of you might have heard online real estate giant Zillow has been hit with an expanded class action lawsuit adding RICO claims. What is RICO, you're asking, Abra? Racketeering, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act is what RICO stands for. This year, Zillow has found itself at the center of multiple major lawsuits. First, Compass versus Zillow, antitrust lawsuit. Compass is alleging that Zillow is blocking their coming soon listings from appearing on Zillow unless those listings are published directly to the MLS immediately. In practical terms, what does that mean to you? Many times a seller is wanting to put something on the market pre-market. Maybe they're not ready for showings yet. Maybe they just want to get a little bit of buzz going about their property coming. Zillow has said those listings will never be allowed on Zillow. Not once it goes live in the multiple listing, not once it's available for showings, that it will be banned from Zillow. So Compass is arguing this policy unfairly restricts how brokers and the market listings today and limiting that consumer's choice and visibility. The second lawsuit going on currently, Zillow has been sued by the FTC and 5 different states with allegations that allowed Redfin to use Zillow's internet listing service under a preferential or exclusive terms. Again, what does this mean for you? As realtors, we grant permission for our listings and our data to be syndicated to these specific platforms such as Zillow. The lawsuit argues that Zillow's control of this data funnels consumers' traffic and ultimately leads back to Zillow, which is the core of its business model, capturing leads and selling those leads to agents and now to their own loan services and other servicing entities. Obviously, These leads are getting sold to the highest bidder, which brings us to the most recent suit, at the center of which is Zillow's lead program. Instead of paying upfront, many agents give Zillow a significant portion of their commission, often around 40% of their commission, in exchange for these buyer leads. On the surface, that seems straightforward. The issue arises with the conditions tied to staying in that lead program from Zillow. Agents allegedly must meet quotas for referring clients to Zillow Home Loans, Zillow's in-house mortgage company that offers pre-approvals, financing, and closing services. And again, you're saying, why does this matter? The lawsuit claims that agents are incentivized and in some cases pressured to steer buyers towards Zillow Home Loans, even when other lenders may offer better rates or better terms or different programs. According to the complainants, agents who failed to meet these mortgage referral expectations risked losing their access to these leads or being removed fully from the lead program completely. There are also allegations that Zillow monitors agents' communications and sometimes gives instructions verbally or in person to avoid creating a written record, raising serious concerns about the transparency and control. The key takeaway here is that these lawsuits do not frame the issues as isolated problems. Instead, they allege a coordinated strategy across Zillow's entire platform, from listings to leads to mortgage services, that influence multiple stages of the home buying process. There are now class action lawsuits accusing Zillow of steering and these racketeering types of behaviors. All of this also implicates RESPA, which is the Real Estate Settlement Protection Act, which prohibits undisclosed kickbacks and referrals not being disclosed, something of value being given, the lead, and no disclosure happening about the referral being paid or the requirements to work with their lender. The argument is that these lead for referral arrangements are effectively kickbacks that are not being properly disclosed to consumers anywhere at any time. Zillow does offer a smooth user experience and an easy-to-use app. But the real question is, at what cost to you as the consumer and at what cost to us as an industry? When Zillow bans private or coming soon listings, it sends a clear message: control matters more than choice. When realtors are pressured to steer clients towards Zillow Home Loans, regardless of whether the lender offers the best product, consumer interest takes a back seat. When agents are required to pay hefty referral fees and yet are allegedly discouraged from disclosing these fees to their clients, that crosses a serious line. This isn't just a problem, it's unethical, and it directly conflicts with our real estate license laws, our ethic laws, and consumer protection laws. One thing's certain, we're all going to need to stay tuned. Things are going to change. Let's face it, Zillow is one of the largest real estate apps in the entire world. So things are going to look different, and we're going to need to see how this plays out, because none of this changes quickly, right? There's going to be a lot of fallout of what is going to happen, what is going to change, and what is going to have to change to make this right for the consumers and for our real estate industry. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with a look at our regional market updates. All right, let's jump into the regional market update. Greene County, Wisconsin. From Monroe, Wisconsin to New Glarus, Wisconsin, 28 homes sold last month with an average sale price of $322,818,000. Currently, though, 89 homes for sale with their average asking price of $412,228. We're going to talk about that just a little more. But let's jump to Stephenson County, Illinois. Freeport to Davis to Lena, all throughout northern Illinois, 34 homes sold last month with an average sale price of $194,784, $194,784. Who would have ever thought they'd seen those numbers in Stephenson County? Currently, 79 homes for sale with an average asking price of $249,339. What does all this mean? We're seeing days on market start to increase. That's a sign that the market is beginning to cool, not just in activity, but in pricing as well. As you see, those ones that were active pricing were higher price points than what is selling. So homes that are priced correctly are still selling, sometimes even over asking price. But these higher priced homes, whether they're overpriced or whether they're just in a higher price range, are sitting a lot longer. Also, it's the time of year. Let's face it. It's winter, folks, right? As people focus on shopping and decorating and hosting for holidays and traveling for the holidays, home searching naturally takes a back seat. What we're really seeing is a shift back towards a healthier, normal, more balanced market, one where buyers actually have options. Instead of fighting over one single home, buyers can go see multiple homes and make more informed decisions and have choices. We're going to take a quick break before we are joined by our community guests of the month. I'm so excited. On today's episode, we're honored to welcome the incredible community leaders from Voices of Stephenson County, Julie Hilliger and Beth Maskell. We are so excited to have them here. Voices has been a cornerstone in Freeport and Stephenson County, providing critical support and resources to survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and abuse for decades. From crisis hotlines and counseling to emergency shelters and advocacy, their work impacts countless lives right here in our community, in our area. Serving as the executive director, Beth Maskell brings a career-long passion for helping those in crisis and restoring hope and dignity to survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Beth has dedicated her entire career to the nonprofit sector. And since joining Voices in 2017, gosh, it seems like it's been longer than that. Beth has overseen the organization's growth, including its move to a new location, navigating services safely through the pandemic, and opening the county's first shelter for survivors back in 2021. Julie Hilliger, as the marketing director and coordinator for Voices marketing efforts, helping to amplify the organization's mission and connect with the community to ensure survivors know where to find support. Julie, Beth, thank you so much for being here today. So excited.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to talk about a lot of different things today, and feel free to throw in any other thoughts as we, kind of go through stuff. But can you start by telling me and telling our listeners a bit about Voices of Stephenson County and the work you do?
Sure. So Voices is a survivor service agency. We support survivors of domestic and sexual violence and their family members or significant others. So those could be individuals that are currently experiencing violence, maybe experienced violence as children, have been witnesses to violence, or, that violence has impacted them in some way. So it's really a round model of service. We provide anything from that immediate crisis intervention, to long-term stabilization and to prevention education in the community. A big focus is not just treating the violence after it's happened, but trying to prevent it in our community as well.
Right, trying to break the cycle and
Correct.
trying to stop that cycle, because it is sadly is a cycle.
It is.
Many times.
It is, and as we've seen in our community, violence is continuing to increase, and having that role as kind of a protective factor and being an agency that can help support the community before violence occurs is essential to breaking that long-term cycle for the city of Freeport as well.
Right. The education and the awareness of it, so people see it and know what to do when they see that, or, see that happening and speak up. So yeah, absolutely. How has Voices evolved over the years? I know that's a very broad question, right? How would you, kind of summarize that?
It has changed a lot. When I, started, I just had my 9-year anniversary. And when I started with the agency, I think I can safely say that it's a different agency today than it was back then. When I first learned of Voices and joined the team, it was not a 24/7 agency, and really supported survivors in a very impactful way. but it was more for survivors that were seeking services. And, I think I am safe to sum it up as it was a kind of like a hush-hush, tone.
Right.
That nobody really talked about voices or, it was kind of the hidden building. And, we have worked very, very hard over the years to be known and to be a part. And so I think that's one of the most significant changes that we've had over the years is that we're visible. We want people to know what Voices is, to have heard of it, and to be honest, to be proud that it's in the community.
Right.
And so we've changed by being a part of, community activities, parades, the school systems, private businesses, and, anywhere we're invited, we'll go for the most part and to try to spread that message.
Right.
We've also evolved a lot just with changes in programming. We, clearly have expanded the existing programs that we had. When I started with the agency, we had 13 staff members. And, now we have almost 40 staff members.
Wow.
And so each of those programs then, we went from having one counselor, to a team of counselors, and the same thing for advocacy and the other programs. Our housing program has also significantly expanded. Housing offers survivors long-term stabilization. So that can be potentially a year's worth of support or several years worth of support, depending on the need. And, that has grown to just a handful of apartments to over 30, as well as opening new programs like our emergency shelter, which you mentioned is really the only in Northwest Illinois.
Right. And that was a huge milestone, getting that shelter and then to see that grow as well. Like you started off with, a few rooms and now it's an entire building.
It is, yeah. And when we had dreamed of that, it had always been a dream of mine. I think when I started with the agency, I immediately recognized that was an unmet need for the community. Although we did get support from local hotels and were able to help in crisis situations, there was really a need that was just being unmet. So we quickly opened up a shelter in the height of the pandemic. And, within a year realized that we needed more space. So we relocated our non-residential services, doubled our shelter capacity, and, just current day, we're identifying ways in which to increase shelter capacity in the current building that we have as well to get the most out of space.
Right, which is amazing to say that you've grown out of, spaces already. And, it's a sad thing, but it's an amazing thing that you have this ability and can serve that. It's also probably a lot more affordable to have your own building and not be putting them up in hotels and, and things like that at the end of the day.
Very much so. And to be able to ensure safety and, the dignity of our services as well.
Right.
We're also a pet-friendly program, and all of our programs are. So to have that emergency space where survivors can come to in crisis and bring their pets and, receive a safe place is very, very important to us.
Yeah, because that's also very rare. And the pet might be their child, basically, might be their,
Definitely.
Support.
I know mine is.
Yeah, mine are my support animals as well. So absolutely, yep. What are some of the biggest challenges you would say Voices has faced in the community and in the area?
Yeah, I think challenge-wise is just sometimes I think we struggle as in any community agency to keep up with the needs in the community. Like I had mentioned, the violence in our community continues to escalate. Much of that relates to, violence in the home. And it stems from the financial crises of our community, the mental health crises of our community. And, we really do see the impacts of that. Even in the most lovable households, the pandemic was stressful, finances are stressful. And so then to bring in the aspect of power and control and how domestic and sexual violence play a role there, it causes the intensity of the violence to increase significantly. And we've struggled with that over the past few years. And just with current funding climates and governmental changes and things like that, we definitely struggle with the ever-changing landscape of funding, and what that looks like for the agency, and how do we ensure that we protect everyone in the community and support everyone in the community, and what that looks like.
But yet have a stable funding that you can rely on, because
very much
then,
so.
then what do you do when that suddenly changes?
Yeah. And we've built robust, solid programs, and I know myself as the leader of the organization, it's hard to sleep sometimes knowing what if this happens and what if that happens, and just keeping with that is a challenge.
Right.
So I think, just the ongoing capacity of, how do we keep serving so many people that need our support in a safe, professional way.
Right, right. Well, and you touched on something of, the violence escalating and things like that. I know, some people kind of minimize domestic violence too and think, well, it's, they're being controlling, but they're not physically hurting them. Or, there's my daughter at one point did counseling for abusers, and and he was, well, I only slapped her. I didn't, I didn't hurt her. You know what I mean, or something like that. And so there's a lot of excuses made and a lot of minimization, and that's not the case. Like, you guys help and support and treat all different levels of, whether it's a controlling issue financially, or whether it's, someone who is physically being abused, mentally being abused. There's so many different levels of abuse and control. Right. And so, people, I don't think a lot of times don't realize that or don't think about that. They try and kind of minimize it and say, oh, well, that's just this. Yep. Well, it's a huge factor. It
is. And that was really one of the reasons in which why, we've worked so hard to be more proactive in the community and to reduce that stigma. Just like many things, people associate domestic and sexual violence with certain groups of people. And, it literally, I don't think that there's many people that don't know someone or themselves haven't been affected, by domestic or sexual violence. And, the minimization or the victim blaming or things like that, really is just kind of generally accepted. Right. And so, we've worked really hard to reduce that and to reduce the shame and to make it more talked about, because that helps survivors or friends and families feel like maybe this is something I can talk about or seek services, to support, because it is very common. One in three households have, experienced some sort of domestic or sexual violence. And, the more we can reduce that stigma, the better the healthier our community will be. Right.
And it's a challenge, because like even myself have a challenge talking about it, because you don't want to be viewed as the, victim, but then you also do need to speak up and talk about it as, I am a survivor, and it does happen to all different races, classes, ethnicity. It is not a, selective to this group or this area or this, population. And I think that's also, like you said, very much just a assumption people make is, it's only this class of people, or it's only this income level, or, it's this community. Yeah. And that's not the case at all.
I'd like to add in there, it is about busting those stereotypes.
Absolutely.
Because people like to say that it only happens to certain groups.
Correct.
And whenever I do presentations, because I am a survivor, and when I do presentations, I always like to put that in there and say, I don't look like what you think whenever you picture a survivor.
Right.
Because people, I think, get it in their head that a survivor of domestic violence should be from a certain class of people.
Right.
But it's not.
Right.
I always like to think that domestic violence knows no boundaries, because it doesn't.
Absolutely.
It affects every demographic, every economic background. We've seen survivors from their children to age 90 and from every income level. So it just does not matter.
Right.
And people need to end. People often say that, oh, you serve women and children and teenagers. No, we serve men too, and assist men.
Right.
And people need to thoroughly understand that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and like you said, there is that stereotype of, oh, well, it's this certain age group, or this certain, these younger women, or, something like that, or, and of course you always hear the thing of, well, why don't they just leave? And, and there's so many other things going into that, from the control, from the pets, from the financial, from, so many other aspects that people don't even, think about.
Verbal abuse.
And oftentimes it's safer not to leave.
Right.
I think that's a big misconception is oftentimes, violence escalates through the roof, or often to a lethal point when someone flees the violence or flees the situation. So often staying with a partner and, being able to control the violence as best as possible is the safest outcome.
Right.
And is also the safest outcome when, pets and children are involved.
Right.
Because oftentimes that abuser could get unmonitored parenting time, and then there's no way to assist the children if they're abused or to be there for safety.
Right.
And we have lost many survivors over the years that have left and have unfortunately lost their lives, at that time.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. That is because then things escalate, suddenly. And so it is, this weight of, am I safer to leave or safer to stay or what is the option? So exactly like I said, why people say, well, why don't they just leave? Well, it's absolutely not that simple.
No.
So
Yeah. I wish it was.
Yeah.
I think we all wish it was. And
right.
It's just not.
Yeah. Nope. Absolutely. How can members of the community and our area get involved?
There's a myriad of ways in which community members can get involved with Voices. Many of them are financial. Many people come to us and they say, I want to volunteer. Volunteering at Voices is not as simple as it may seem.
Right.
Because to work directly with our survivors requires a total of 80 hours of training. And we just don't have that many opportunities to work directly with our survivors unless you undergo that 80 hours of training.
Right.
And it's very specialized training, and it's a very expensive training as well. We're in the process of getting licensed so that we can undergo that training and offer that training ourselves.
Oh, that would be awesome.
But right now we're not quite to the point where we can offer that training.
Okay.
And the Book Nook also, the Voices Book Nook, which we've not mentioned, but the Voices Book Nook has a limited number of volunteers that they accept. And right now they're pretty full.
That's a wonderful problem.
It is a wonderful problem. Our Book Nook volunteers are absolutely incredible. But we do have a few volunteer opportunities, and you can contact us if you're interested in doing some volunteer work, but those opportunities are limited. Primarily, if people want to assist, we always need financial assistance. And there are wish list items that we have as well that could be of great need for our volunteers, great assistance to our volunteers. And those are contained on our website, which is voicesofsc.org.
Voices of SC.
SSC.
Okay.
For Stephenson County.
Okay. All right. That's
Voices
I
of SC.
just wanted to make sure we had that clear in there.
Yeah, voicesofsc.org.
Okay. Awesome. And so you keep the wish list there so people can go. I know one thing that I had not realized a lot of times it's little things like gas cards, for people to get to a job interview or to get to a school or training or things like that, like some of that little stuff too.
Gas cards and transportation equal freedom for our survivors. It gives them the ability to leave if they want to. It gives them the ability to move around freely.
Yeah.
So anything related to transportation is freedom
Very, very
for our survivors.
Right.
It also gives them the ability to come to medical appointments, counseling appointments, the grocery store, job interviews, take their kids to school. And the thing about it is that when you leave a domestic violence situation, you often leave with little more than the clothes on your back.
Right.
And you also are very often going from a 2-income situation to a 1-income situation.
Right.
And so you are literally most often having to start over.
Yeah. Or a no-income situation.
Right.
Or a no-income situation, correct.
And part of the reason why some of those money donations are so important is because, like you said, leaving without a birth certificate.
Correct.
Leaving without a driver's license, leaving without any type of paperwork. So then there's filing fees to go get those things.
We are
and go
starting
get those
from ground
copies.
zero to sometimes get documentation that people need just to start over. So,
Yeah.
Oftentimes we think when someone enters emergency shelter, or I think a misconception is, we'll get a job and do this, this, and this, but sometimes it takes 6 to 8 weeks just to get a copy of a birth certificate, so it takes a considerable amount of time to start from ground zero.
Right. And that's part of the controlling thing, and when it was challenging to leave and things like that, because a lot of those things are being held hostage and, and that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of those just small hidden expenses. I say small, but they all add up. The cost to get a birth certificate, the cost to go get a driver's license so that someone can even get a job or can go, do those independent living things that we all take for granted. We don't think about that.
And if you were to get a job and it required specialized clothing, let's say scrubs, then that's an expense,
right?
As well.
Right.
And we used to have funding for those specific items. We don't have funding for that any longer through some of our federal and state grants. That money is all gone.
Right.
So that is coming out of our just general fund.
Just our general dollars that we fundraise and put.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, what are some of the current priorities or initiatives that Voices is working on?
So I think one of our current focuses really is safe, stable housing for survivors. I think overall in our community, we struggle to find affordable, safe housing for the community as a whole. But, for survivors that are entering emergency shelter or maybe in homes that are not safe, finding that safe housing to flee to is essential. So, our housing program has grown significantly. But we continue to struggle to find those safe rental units primarily where people can go long term.
Right.
I think this is very much a national problem, of course, is, the safe, affordable housing. But, it is very much a local problem as well. And so our focus on that to make sure, because again, it's simple to say just leave, but where is there to go?
Right.
And, that's one of the challenges that we continue to focus on and look for, through our strategic plan and our long-term mission thinking ahead is, how do we help support the community to have safe places, for people to live and to dwell, and just overall capacity. Our emergency shelter is full 99% of the time. Like I had mentioned, our, non-residential services are busy all of the time. So, just what does that look like for Voices and, physical space? We are pretty much at max capacity now for services, and we have boxes in our offices and, store things that we'd really love somewhere else. And, Voices is strategically thinking about what that looks like for us long term and maybe where do we plant seeds for the agency for long term, and really just fortifying our mission and ensuring that we have the administration and the foundation to be this healthy organization that we've grown into.
Right.
And, how do we continue to be strong and flourish in the future?
Right. Not put yourselves in a position where you can't sustain that or fund that. So it's on one hand, you want to have all this housing and all this shelter, but yet we've got to have the stability to fund it and to keep it up and running and staffed and everything else too.
And we want to make sure that we do it at the quality and care level that we've grown accustomed to and, to be able to keep that long term.
Right. It's one of the things that I loved about Voices' mission statement in general, talking about, just having that dignity provided to those survivors, that it's not just, you're coming into what feels like a shelter or feels like, an emergency escape. It feels home and it feels safe.
Right. Yeah. We don't want to be an institution. We don't want anyone to feel less than when they're receiving services.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
We also will be starting a new fundraiser in the spring, and it is a Mother's Day flower sale.
Okay. Awesome.
And it is springboarding off of our very successful mom sale that we conducted in the fall last year that debuted last September.
Okay.
And so this Mother's Day flower sale is designed to just kind of echo from that.
Okay.
And it's going to be also held at the Lincoln Mall like the mom sale was. And it's going to offer hanging baskets, mixed pots of flowers, and a few smaller, just already pre-potted. Like there'll be some succulent bowls.
Okay.
And some items like that available as well.
Awesome. And I remember seeing that was coming up early May. So we will definitely be sharing some dates and get some information out about that so we can start getting some promotions out about that, a little ahead of time. Are there any things that people maybe would be shocked to know about Voices of Stephenson County that they don't know, or maybe, a thing or two that maybe people don't realize?
I think it's always important to mention that you don't have to be fleeing violence to seek services. The violence could have been many moons ago, and it could be current, but you're choosing to stay with your partner or abuser. We want to support you in any step of the journey. We will help you become safe as possible for whatever that looks like. I think there's always a misconception that we would encourage someone to leave, or, that you have to be ready to seek those services. And, we want to validate your experience and support you where you're at. So I think that's important, for the community to know.
Yeah, that is very important to know, that it's not that you have to be leaving. It is not a requirement. It's just, you might just need some help or some counseling or some advice or some just resources of references of, where do I go for this, or what about this? And because you guys are a great resource of what do you do about this? Yeah. And so absolutely.
Yeah, we serve roughly about 850 survivors a year. About 700 are related to domestic violence, and about 150 are related to sexual violence. Just kind of by the numbers, about 70% of clients identify as female, about 30% identify as male, and the same kind of demographic to some degree. About 30% are under the age of 18, and 70% are over the age of 18. Something else I think that the community sometimes doesn't think or associate to us is our camp programs. We offer a large free summer camp program.
Okay.
It's normally about a 2-week program, and it encompasses all the way from those entering kindergarten through those entering high school, and is really focuses on healthy relationships, communication, and really that kind of prevention focus, but fun.
Right.
We work really hard to get in some great activities and swimming and field trips and things like that. And we've had kids that have come for several years now and cry when it's over, because they're, so sad and it was so fun.
Right.
And really our goal there is to work with maybe parts of the community and some individuals that wouldn't be able to receive that summer camp experience, maybe for financial constraints or all of the things.
Right.
So, we're really proud to offer that as well.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome, because there are a lot of different type of camp programs, but like you said, maybe they can't afford it, or maybe don't have transportation to get to it, or, things like that. And so how can we bridge that, fill that spot? Absolutely.
Another fun fact is that we adopted Pleasant Street several years ago here in Freeport, and this is maybe our third or fourth year of cleaning it 2 to 3 times a year. We're hoping in 2026 we'll get a little sign.
Okay.
But we, go all the way from the Boys and Girls Club to 26.
Oh, wow.
And, we're super proud of it. It's really become our street. And, we work really hard internally to be a part of the community. Many of us live here as well as work here. And, we're thankful to have that opportunity.
Yeah, that's very awesome. I didn't know that even. See, I learned something new today. Julie, anything else that we didn't cover?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I just know that I am just incredibly impressed. I've been with Voices nearly 5 years, and just how far we've come in that 5 years. Beth mentioned that she was employee number 9. I was employee number 17.
Wow.
And we are now right at 40 employees, as Beth said.
That's just
so
amazing.
Just in 5 years.
Right.
We have more than doubled our employee count. And there was no shelter 5 years ago.
Right.
And now we have this amazing shelter that has doubled in size.
Right. Yeah, all the services and everything. It's amazing.
It's incredible how far we have come just in these past 5 years.
Right.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say thank you, because it's opportunities like this to share our mission, to share our purpose, that allows us to reduce the stigma and, to normalize that this violence occurs in households. And, through the support, both for our mission and the financial support of, you and the company is just priceless. Just through the little things that we do and throughout the years, you've continued to stick by us and support us in those ways. And, it's thanks to you and those of like you in the community that we are where we are today. So we're grateful.
Well,
Yes.
I'm
Yes,
grateful
thank
for
you.
all you do as a survivor myself. And it's wonderful that, you can do what you do, and we love to support, and we appreciate all of our amazing clients and friends and family that, come together for everything from cheese balls to the fundraisers and things like that. So, we're so thankful for all you guys do, because I know it's not easy. And like you said, a lot of sleepless nights worrying about funding and financing and how you're going to keep things going. So thank you guys so much for doing this, for coming and sitting down and sharing some of the story. If people want to reach out to Voices, we talked about the website. I can't even talk today. Stephenson County. No. voicesofsc.org. And phone number?
815-235-9421.
Okay, awesome. So if anybody has any questions, wants to reach out, I know you also have a Facebook page, check out the wish list, follow them, and, stay in touch of what they need, and take a look and see if there's something you can maybe stick under your Christmas tree or stick on your wish list for next year of things that, you could help out. Even if it's just one little thing, it goes a long ways.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys
so much.
So my tip of the month, I'll be honest, originally I was talking about donations of time, right? Because financial donations are great, but some of us can't do that. And as we learned from one of our earlier podcasts with Altruize, donations of time equal $36 an hour saving for these nonprofits. But as Voices of Stephenson County mentioned, they can't always have volunteers. So you need to think about, how can you maybe make one thing on their wish list happen? Could it be a cute, simple little gift card? Could it be a gas card the next time you're going and getting fuel? Could it be something very small to help somebody starting out who doesn't even have shampoo, doesn't have feminine products, doesn't have a comb, doesn't have, basic socks and things like that? So think about what you can help out maybe on their wish list. And again, I'd really love to hear from you of what you would love us to talk about on our next podcast, because we really love hearing from you and knowing what is connecting with you. We appreciate you listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, listed wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll talk to you soon.